The emergency session of Earth's Global Defense Council took place 3 days after the Devourer scouts retreated from Kepler 442b. Jake found himself sitting in a chair that probably cost more than his yearly salary, staring at a holographic display that showed the faces of world leaders from every major nation on Earth. The weight of their attention made him want to crawl under the table and hide. President Maria Santos of the Americas Federation spoke first, her voice carrying the authority of someone who had spent decades making impossible decisions. Mr. Martinez, Admiral Richards has briefed us on the encounter with the hostile aliens. We need to understand exactly what we're facing. Jake glanced at Zaraketh, who stood beside him with that same calm expression she always wore. Even surrounded by the most powerful people on Earth, the Veltar Guardians seemed completely unimpressed by human authority. The Devourers are not just another alien species, Jake said, trying to keep his voice steady. There's something that has been consuming entire galaxies for millions of years. According to Zaraketh, they've destroyed 17 galaxy clusters. Already, General Carl Mitchell, the head of Earth's military forces, leaned forward in his chair. How many ships are we talking about? What kind of fleet strength? Zaraketh stepped forward, and the holographic display changed to show images of space battles from across the galaxy. Jake watched as massive fleets of ships engaged dark vessels that seemed to multiply as the battles progress. Numbers are irrelevant, Zaraketh said. The Devourers do not rely on overwhelming force. They consume the technology and knowledge of every species they defeat, growing stronger with each victory. A single Devourer vessel can adapt to counter an entire fleet's tactics within minutes. Prime Minister Chen Wei of the Asian Coalition shook his head in disbelief. You're telling us that these creatures can learn to defeat any military strategy? Any conventional strategy, Zaraketh corrected. Every Guardian species before you made the same mistake. They tried to become more perfect, more organized, more predictable in their efforts to defeat the threat. But perfection is exactly what the Devourers consume most easily. Dr. Ben Taylor, Earth's chief strategic analyst, was studying the battle footage with growing concern. If traditional military tactics don't work, what do you suggest we do? Hide until they go away? Jake felt all eyes turn to him again, and he wished desperately that someone else could make these decisions. That won't work. Zaraketh says they don't give up once they've found a target. They'll keep coming until they've consumed everything. President Santos folded her hands in front of her. Then, what's your recommendation, Mr. Martinez? The question hung in the air like a sword over Jake's head. He thought about Earth, about the billions of people who had no idea that monsters from beyond the stars were coming to destroy their world. He thought about his sister, about his parents, about every person who deserved a chance to live their life without fear. We fight them, Jake said finally. But we fight them like humans, not like some perfect military machine. General Mitchell looked skeptical. What does that mean exactly? Jake stood up and began pacing around the room, his hands moving as he tried to explain something he barely understood himself. Every species that fought the Devourers tried to beat them at their own game. They use logic and order and perfect tactics. But humans don't fight that way. We fight dirty. We improvise. We do things that don't make sense until they suddenly do. You're talking about guerrilla warfare, said Defense Minister Kowalski from the European Union. Hit and run tactics, asymmetric conflict. Not just guerrilla warfare, Jake said, his excitement growing as the ideas began to flow. Everything that makes us human. Our music, our art, our completely insane ability to find hope in hopeless situations. The Devourers can analyze military tactics, but how do you analyze a species that writes poetry about losing battles? Zaraketh was nodding approvingly. This is what we have been waiting for. A species that can turn weakness into strength, defeat into victory, chaos into order. President Santos looked around at the other world leaders before speaking again. Mr. Martinez, are you suggesting that we base our entire defense strategy on being unpredictable? I'm suggesting that we be ourselves, Jake said. The Devourers have never faced a species like us before. We're the only people in the galaxy crazy enough to think that losing can be winning if you lose in the right way. The room fell silent as the leaders considered this. Finally, Dr. Taylor spoke up. Even if your theory is correct, we're talking about training an entire civilization to think differently about warfare. That takes time we don't have. Zaraketh gestured to the display, which now showed a star map of the local galaxy. Red markers appeared throughout the image, each one representing a Devourer fleet that was moving toward human space. The main invasion force will arrive at Earth in approximately 60 of your days, she said. But they will not come all at once. The Devourers prefer to test their prey first, to learn their patterns through smaller engagements. Admiral Richards, who had been quietly observing the discussion, finally spoke. So we have 2 months to completely revolutionize human military doctrine? Not revolutionize, Jake said. Just remember who we are. Humans have been fighting impossible odds since we first climbed down from the trees. We survived ice ages and plagues and wars and disasters that should have wiped us out a dozen times over. We didn't survive because we were perfect. We survived because we were too stubborn to give up and too crazy to know when we were beaten. General Mitchell was studying the tactical data with the expression of someone trying to solve an impossible puzzle. How do you train soldiers to be unpredictable without destroying unit cohesion and command structure? Zaraketh smiled at this. Question. You train them to trust their instincts more than their orders. You teach them that the best plan is often the one that makes no sense until the moment it works. You show them that chaos and order are not opposites, but partners in a dance that creates something beautiful. President Santos looked directly at Jake through the holographic display. Mr. Martinez, I'm going to ask you a question that will determine the fate of our species. Do you really believe that humanity can defeat an enemy that has conquered galaxies? Jake thought about the battle at Kepler 442b, about Ellen Ross flying her ship like a 3-year-old's drawing, about the look of confusion on the faces of the phase. Devour vessels as they retreated from opponents who refused to fight by the rules. I believe that humanity can defeat any enemy, Jake said, as long as we remember that the rules are just suggestions, and suggestions are made to be ignored when something more important is at stake. The Council voted unanimously to implement what would later be known as the Chaos Protocol. Military units around the world began training in tactics that emphasized creativity over procedure, instinct over analysis, and the fundamental human ability to find a way when there was no way. Jake stood at the window of the council chamber after the session ended, looking out at the city below where millions of people were going about their daily lives unaware that their survival now depended on their ability to be magnificently, beautifully, chaotically human. Are you ready for what comes next? Zaraketh asked, joining him at the window. Jake thought about the question seriously. No, he said finally. But I don't think anyone can be ready for something like this. The best we can do is be ourselves. And hope that's enough. Zaraketh placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. For the first time in 1,000,000 years, she said, I believe it might be. 2 weeks after the combat demonstration, Jake was learning to hate mornings on Kepler 442b. The twin suns rose at different times, creating a confusing pattern of light and shadow that made his head hurt. And Zaraketh insisted on starting training before dawn every single day. This morning was no different, except for the urgent alarm that started blaring from the human ships just as Jake was stumbling toward the training area. Admiral Tony Richards was already shouting orders into his communicator when Jake reached the command center that had been set up in one of the smaller alien structures. The Admiral was a stocky man with graying hair and the kind of weathered face that came from spending decades in space. And right now he looked more worried than Jake had ever seen him. What's happening? Jake asked, still trying to wake up properly. Long-range sensors picked up something at the edge of the system. Admiral Richards said without looking up from his tactical display. 3 unknown vessels moving in formation toward the inner planets. Zaraketh appeared beside Jake with that silent way of moving that still made him jump. Her silver eyes were focused on the display, and Jake could see tension in her elegant features that hadn't been there before. "The advanced scouts," she said quietly. "They have found you sooner than expected." Commander Sullivan turned from where she had been coordinating with the other ships. "How can you be sure these are the Devourers?" Zaraketh gestured to the display, and the image changed to show a clearer view of the approaching ships. They were unlike anything Jake had ever seen, dark vessels that seemed to bend light around them in ways that hurt to look at. Their shape was wrong somehow, like they had been designed by something that didn't understand geometry the way humans did. "No living species builds ships like these," Zaraketh said. "The Devourers stopped creating new designs long ago. They simply take the best features from every race they consume and add them to their existing vessels." Jake stared at the ships and felt his stomach twist with fear. "How many people are on those things?" "The Devourers are not people," Zaraketh said. "They were once, perhaps, but that was eons ago. Now they are something else entirely. Hunger given form, emptiness that consumes light." Admiral Richards was coordinating with Earth Fleet, but Jake could tell from his expression that the news wasn't good. The nearest human battle group was 3 days away, and the colonial defense forces in this system consisted of exactly 4 patrol ships and a supply depot. "We need to evacuate the archaeological team," Commander Sullivan said. "Get them back to Earth before those things get here." "No," Zaraketh said firmly. "If you run now, they will simply follow you home. The Devourers do not give up once they have found prey. Better to face them here, where we can control the battlefield." "Control the battlefield?" Admiral Richards looked at the tactical display showing 3 unknown alien warships against a handful of human vessels. "With what? We're completely outgunned." Zaraketh smiled, and there was something predatory in her expression. "You are thinking like every other species that has faced them. You see ships and weapons and assume this is about firepower. But the Devourer's greatest weapon is not their technology. It is their ability to predict and counter everything you do." She turned to Jake, who was still trying to process the fact that humanity's first alien war was about to start in his backyard. "This is why we need you. Your chaotic thinking patterns are the only thing that can confuse their predictive algorithms." Jake felt a familiar surge of panic. "I don't know anything about space battles. I'm an archaeologist who tells bad jokes." "Exactly," Zaraketh said. "Which means you will think of solutions that no military strategist would ever consider." The next 6 hours passed in a blur of preparation and growing dread. The human ships moved into defensive positions around Kepler 442b, while Admiral Richards tried to coordinate with Earth Fleet Command. Jake found himself in the bizarre position of being consulted on military strategy. Despite having no idea what he was doing, Ellen Ross, a pilot from one of the patrol ships, had been assigned as Jake's partner for the upcoming battle. She was young and eager, with short red hair and the kind of grin that reminded Jake of himself before all this started. "So what's the plan, boss?" she asked as they reviewed the tactical situation. "I have no idea," Jake admitted. "Everyone keeps asking me to think unpredictably, but I don't know how to do that on purpose." Ellen laughed. "Well, that's already more unpredictable than most battle plans I've seen." The Devourer ships entered the inner system 18 hours later, moving with purpose toward the planet where the humans had made their stand. Up close, they were even more disturbing than the long-range scans had suggested. The hulls seemed to shift and flow like liquid metal, and weapon ports appeared and disappeared along their surfaces in patterns that defied understanding. "They're scanning us," reported the sensor operator on Admiral Richards' flagship. "Multiple energy signatures, some I don't recognize." "They're learning," Zaraketh said from where she stood beside Jake on the bridge. "Analyzing your ship designs, your weapon systems, your crew deployment patterns. In moments, they will know exactly how you fight. Admiral Richards looked grim. All ships, prepare for combat. Fire on my command. The battle began exactly as Zaraketh had predicted. The human ships opened fire with their best weapons, using standard fleet tactics and coordinated attack patterns. The Devourer vessels simply moved aside, their paths taking them exactly where they needed to be to avoid every shot. When they returned fire, their weapons seemed to know exactly where the human ships would be, striking weak points in armor and systems with surgical precision. 2 of the patrol ships were disabled in the first exchange, their crews scrambling for escape pods as their vessels drifted helplessly in space. The remaining human forces tried to regroup, but every move they made seemed to be anticipated and countered by the alien ships. "This isn't working," Admiral Richards said through gritted teeth. "They're reading us like an open book." Jake watched the tactical display and felt something click in his mind. What if we stopped reading books? "What?" Commander Sullivan turned to stare at him. "Books follow rules," Jake said, his words coming faster as the idea took shape. "They have chapters and pages and plots that make sense. But what if we wrote our story like a 3-year-old with crayons?" Ellen Ross was grinning despite the desperate situation. "I think I know what he means. Instead of formations and tactics, we just do whatever feels right in the moment." "That's insane," Admiral Richards. "Side, exactly," Jake replied. "Give me control of one ship. Let me try something completely stupid." Against all military protocol and common sense, Admiral Richards transferred command of Ellen's patrol ship to Jake. As he settled into the captain's chair, Jake tried not to think about the fact that he was about to engage alien warships with no training and no plan. "All right, Ellen," he said into the communicator. "Remember that joke I told about the 3 aliens in the bar? The terrible one that made no sense?" Ellen replied from the pilots. "See, that's the one. Fly like that joke." What happened next would be studied in military academies for generations, though no one would ever be able to explain exactly why it worked. Ellen's ship began moving in patterns that defied every principle of space combat. It spun and twisted, and dove in directions that served no tactical purpose, occasionally firing weapons at seemingly random targets. The Devourer ships, which had been effortlessly countering every human move, suddenly seemed confused. Their predictive systems couldn't lock onto a ship that wasn't following any recognizable patterns. When Ellen's vessel suddenly accelerated directly toward one of the alien ships, while broadcasting Earth's radio signals at maximum volume, the Devourer actually seemed to hesitate. "It's working," Zaraketh said with amazement in her voice. "Their analysis systems are overloading. They cannot predict what has no pattern to predict." The other human ships, seeing Ellen's success, began abandoning their formations and attacking in completely random ways. Some ships flew backward while firing, others spun like tops while broadcasting music, and one actually started ramming chunks of asteroid debris into the enemy vessels. The Devourers, faced with tactical chaos they couldn't analyze or counter, began to retreat. Not the organized withdrawal of a defeated military force, but the confused flight of predators who had discovered that their prey was somehow more dangerous than they were dot as the alien ships disappeared into the darkness between stars. Jake slumped in his chair and tried to process what had just happened. Did we just win a space battle by being ridiculous? "You won," Zaraketh said, "by being human." The next morning, Jake returned to check on Zara and found her sitting on the floor near her bed, still wearing the same clothes from the day before. Her skin was a dull gray color that indicated fatigue and stress. She looked up when he entered, and he noticed her large eyes seemed even bigger than usual. "Did you sleep at all last night?" Jake asked with concern. "I attempted rest periods," Zara replied carefully, "but the toilet made strange sounds throughout the night cycle, small gurgles and water movements. I remained alert in case it decided to activate on its own." Jake tried not to smile. "Those are just normal plumbing sounds, Zara. All toilets make little noises as water moves through the system. It's nothing to worry about. On my world, when organic systems make unexpected sounds, it usually means they are sick or preparing to defend themselves, Zara explained. I was not certain if mechanical systems follow the same patterns. You really haven't used the bathroom at all since yesterday? Jake asked. You must need to by now. Zara's skin shifted to a pale pink color that meant embarrassment. I have been avoiding the water weapon room entirely, but you are correct that my biological needs are becoming urgent. Okay, let's solve this problem right now, Jake said decisively. I'm going to stay with you and walk you through using the toilet safely. And then we'll tackle the shower so you can get clean. Shower? Zara's skin immediately flashed orange with alarm. There are additional water devices in the weapon room? Jake realized he had made another mistake by mentioning new technology without explanation. The shower is for cleaning your body. It sprays water so you can wash yourself. It sprays water? Zara's voice rose higher. Like a pressurized water attack. System? No, like gentle rain? Jake said quickly. Very gentle. You stand under it and the water helps you get clean. Zara stared at him with disbelief. Humans voluntarily stand under falling water while removing their protective coverings. This sounds like either a punishment ritual or a test of endurance. It's actually quite pleasant once you get used to it, Jake said. But let's start with the toilet first. One scary thing at a time. It took another hour of patient explanation and demonstration before Zara finally agreed to try using the toilet. Jake stood outside the bathroom door while she went inside, and he heard her talking to herself in her own language. When she successfully flushed the toilet without panicking, she emerged with her skin showing proud purple stripes. I have survived direct contact with the water weapon, she announced. It performed exactly as you predicted and caused no harm to my person. Great job, Zara. Now let's work on the shower, Jake said. You'll feel much better after you're clean. They went back into the bathroom and Jake showed her the shower stall. It was a small enclosed space with glass doors and a metal fixture mounted high on the wall that had a round perforated disc attached to it. The water comes out of those holes, Jake explained, pointing to the shower head. You turn these handles to control the temperature and pressure. Warm water is comfortable, hot water can burn you, and cold water is unpleasant but not dangerous. Zara examined the shower controls with intense concentration. These handles control the water weapon's intensity settings? It's not a weapon. Zara, it's just water for washing. Jake turned one of the handles slightly, and water began flowing from the shower head in a steady stream. See? Just clean water. Zara jumped backwards so quickly she hit the bathroom wall. You activated the water attack without warning. What if it had been set to maximum intensity? It can't hurt you, Jake said, sticking his hand directly under the water stream. Look, I'm putting my hand in the water and nothing bad is happening. Your species truly has remarkable resistance to water-based attacks, Zara observed, making notes on her device. Do all humans develop this immunity naturally, or is it acquired through training? Jake sighed and turned off the water. Zara, humans aren't resistant to water attacks because water isn't attacking us. We evolved on a planet covered mostly with water. Our bodies are mostly made of water. We need water to survive. You are water-based life forms? Zara's skin changed to an interested green color. This explains your comfort with water weapons. You have natural affinity for the element. Exactly, Jake said, feeling like he was finally making progress. So, when we use water to clean ourselves, it's natural and comfortable for us. Zara considered this information while studying the shower. If I'm to understand human culture, I should attempt to experience your water cleaning ritual. But I will. Need guidance to avoid injury. Of course. I'll help you figure out the right temperature and everything, Jake said. Do you want to try it now? I suppose I must eventually, Zara said reluctantly. but I will keep my protective coverings on for the first attempt. Jake started the shower again and adjusted the temperature until it was comfortably warm. Okay, it's ready? Just step inside and let the water hit you. Start with just your hand if you want. Zara approached the shower like she was entering a dangerous animal's cage. She extended one of her forearms slowly toward the water stream and let it touch her fingertips. The water was warm and gentle, and after a moment she allowed it to flow over her entire hand. It is not painful, she reported with surprise. The water temperature is actually quite pleasant. Great. Now try stepping into the stream, Jake encouraged. Zara took a deep breath and stepped forward into the shower. The water hit her clothes and began soaking through the fabric. At first, she stood very still and rigid, but gradually she began to relax as she realized the water wasn't going to hurt her. This is actually rather soothing, she admitted. I can understand why humans would find this experience enjoyable. See? Not scary at all, Jake said. When you're ready to shower properly, you'll need to remove your clothes first so the soap can clean your skin. Remove my protective coverings while exposed to the water stream? Zara's skin flashed red again. That seems extremely vulnerable. That's how humans always shower, Jake said. The bathroom door locks so no one can see you. You'll be completely private and safe. Zara was quiet for a moment while water continued to spray over her clothed body. I think I need time to mentally prepare for such an advanced level of water interaction. Perhaps I should master basic shower use before attempting the full naked water ritual. That's fine, Jake said. Take your time. You're doing great. After Zara finished her first closed shower experience, Jake decided to show her the kitchen area of the facility. He thought cooking appliances might be less threatening than bathroom technology, but he quickly discovered he was wrong. The kitchen had standard human appliances, including a refrigerator, microwave, stove, and garbage disposal. Zara examined each device with the same suspicious intensity she had shown the toilet. This large white box emanates cold energy, she observed, standing near the refrigerator. Is it a preservation system for organic materials? Yes, it keeps food cold so it doesn't spoil, Jake said. We call it a refrigerator. And this smaller box? She asked, pointing to the microwave. That's a microwave. It heats food using electromagnetic radiation. Zara's skin immediately turned bright red. Radiation? You deliberately expose your food to radiation before consuming it? It's perfectly safe radiation, Jake said quickly. It just makes the food molecules vibrate faster to create heat. Molecular manipulation through directed energy, Zara whispered in amazement. Your species casually uses particle physics for food preparation. Before Jake could explain further, the refrigerator's ice maker suddenly activated with a loud grinding and dropping sound. Zara screamed and dove behind the kitchen counter as ice cubes clattered into the collection bin. The cold box is attacking, she shouted. It's producing projectile weapons. Those are just ice cubes, Jake called out. Frozen water for drinks. The machine makes them automatically. Zara peered over the counter cautiously. Your food preservation system has integrated ammunition manufacturing capabilities. Jake put his head in his hands. This was going to be another very long day. Zara Keflin stepped off the transport shuttle and felt her 3 hearts beat faster than they should. The human facility looked strange with its square corners and flat surfaces. Everything seemed so rigid and unnatural compared to the flowing, organic structures of her home world. She carried her small travel pod in 2 of her forearms, while the other 2 held the translation device that would help her communicate with the humans. Jake Martinez waited for her at the entrance with a warm smile that showed his white teeth. Zara had studied human facial expressions, but seeing one in person still felt odd. The way humans stretched their mouth openings to show pleasure seemed almost threatening to her people who communicated emotions through color changes in their skin. Welcome to Earth, Zara, Jake said in the common galactic language. I'm Jake and I'll be your guide during your stay here. Zara's skin shifted to a pale blue color that meant nervousness. Thank you, human Jake. I am ready to learn about your species and your ways. Jake led her through the facility corridors that had bright white lights hanging from the ceiling. On her world, they used bioluminescent organisms that gave off a soft glow. These harsh artificial lights made her secondary eyelids close partially to protect her vision. Your room is just down this hall, Jake explained as they walked. It has all the basic things you'll need. A bed, a desk, storage space, and your own private bathroom. The word bathroom translated oddly in her device. It seemed to mean a room for cleaning the body, but the translation also carried implications of waste disposal. Zara wondered why humans would combine these two functions in one space. They stopped at a door, marked with symbols she couldn't read yet. Jake pressed his hand against a flat panel, and the door slid open with a soft hiss. Zara jumped back slightly at the sound, her skin flashing orange in surprise. It's okay, Jake said gently. It's just the door opening. All doors work like this for security. Inside the room, Zara saw furniture that looked functional, but uncomfortable. The bed was a flat rectangle raised off the ground. The desk was another flat surface with a chair that had a back support. Everything had such sharp angles and hard materials. The bathroom is through that door. Jake pointed to another entrance. I'll let you get settled and come back in a few hours to check on you. If you need anything, just press this button and someone will come help you. After Jake left, Zara explored her new temporary home. The bed felt strange when she sat on it. Her people slept in soft pods that adjusted to their body shape. This human sleeping surface was completely rigid. She would have to get used to many strange things during her stay. Her translation device beeped with a message from the facility's main computer. It was a welcome message that explained basic rules and included instructions for using various human technologies in the room. One section was titled Bathroom Usage Guidelines, and Zara decided she should learn about this important human custom. She approached the bathroom door, and it opened automatically like the main entrance. Inside was a small white room with several mysterious objects. The largest was a white bowl-shaped thing that sat on the floor. It was filled with clear water and had a round opening at the top. Next to it was a smaller white bowl mounted on the wall with metal fixtures above it. Zara read the instructions on her device. The toilet is used for waste disposal. Sit on the seat and use as needed. Press the handle to flush when finished. The device showed a diagram of a human sitting on the white bowl thing, which was apparently called a toilet. She stared at the pilot. Toilet with growing confusion and alarm. Humans sat directly over a pit of water to dispose of waste. On her world, waste was processed through biological filters and special organic chambers. The idea of sitting over an open water container seemed dangerous and unsanitary. Zara examined the toilet more closely. The water in the bowl was completely still and clear. She could see all the way to the bottom. Why would humans want to look at the place where they put their waste? Her device had mentioned something called a flush, which seemed to be activated by pushing down on a metal handle attached to the side. Curiosity overcame her fear, and she pressed the handle gently. Immediately, the toilet roared to life with a sound like rushing wind and crashing water. The clear water in the bowl began spinning in a violent circle, creating a whirlpool that sucked everything down into a dark hole at the bottom. The sound was loud and frightening, like some kind of mechanical beast waking up hungry. Zara screamed and jumped backward, her skin flashing bright red in terror. The toilet continued its violent water dance for several more seconds before slowly becoming quiet again. New water flowed in to replace what had been sucked away, filling the bowl back to its original level. Her hearts were beating so fast she thought they might burst. What kind of weapon was this? No wonder humans were considered a dangerous species by some members of the Galactic Council. They had weaponized their waste disposal systems. The toilet was clearly some kind of trap or disposal unit for unwanted organic matter. She backed out of the bathroom quickly and sealed the door behind her. Her skin was still bright red, with alarm patches of yellow showing extreme stress. She needed to contact the Cultural Exchange Office immediately to report this safety hazard. But first, she had to understand what she had just witnessed. Zara activated her personal recording device and began making notes. Human waste disposal system appears to be highly aggressive mechanical trap. Water vortex suggests powerful suction capabilities. Noise level indicates significant energy output. Purpose unclear, but potentially defensive or offensive in nature. She spent the next hour researching human bathroom technology through the facilities database. What she found only made her more frightened. Humans have multiple bathroom fixtures, including something called a shower that shot water at high pressure, and other devices with names like garbage disposal and drain that seem designed to destroy and remove unwanted materials. When Jake returned to check on her, he found Zara sitting in the corner of her room as far from the bathroom door as possible. She had moved the desk in front of the bathroom entrance and was holding her emergency communication device. "Zara, is everything okay?" Jake asked, noticing her red skin color and defensive posture. "Human Jake," she said carefully, "I must ask you about the weapon in the cleaning room." "Weapon?" Jake looked confused. "What weapon?" "The white water trap. The toilet." Zara's skin shifted to a deeper red. "I activated it accidentally, and it tried to consume everything in its path. Why do humans keep such dangerous devices in their living spaces?" Jake stared at her for a moment before understanding dawned on his face. His mouth stretched into that strange smile expression again, but he quickly made it smaller when he saw how frightened she was. "Oh, Zara, the toilet isn't a weapon. It's just for getting rid of waste. The flush is how we clean it after using it. It's perfectly safe." "Safe?" Zara's voice rose higher. It created a water vortex that could destroy anything placed inside it. The sound alone could deafen smaller species. Jake sat down slowly on the bed, keeping his movements calm and non-threatening. "I think we need to have a long talk about human bathroom technology. Would you like me to explain how it really works?" Zara looked at the barricaded bathroom door and then back at Jake. "Only if you promise the water demon will not try to eat me." Jake stood before the Station Compatibility Council with his heart pounding. The council chamber was a massive circular room with representatives from every species on the station. Commander Vex sat at the center table, his reptilian face showing no emotion. Professor Kelwin had his recording devices ready, and dozens of other aliens watched from elevated seats around the room. "Human Jake Morrison," Commander Vex announced formally, "you have been called before this council to address your rejection of Nexus assignment protocols. How do you plead?" "I don't plead anything," Jake said, his voice steadier than he felt. "I request permission to present evidence that the current assignment system is flawed and harmful to all species on this station." A murmur ran through the assembled aliens. Commander Vex's scales shifted to a darker green. "You dare question Nexus?" he demanded. "I question any system that wastes talent and ignores individual potential," Jake replied. Professor Kelwin leaned forward. "This is exactly the kind of primitive emotional response we expected from your species." "Then let me show you some primitive emotional responses," Jake said, activating a holographic projector that Dr. Nexia had secretly provided. The first image showed Zera's plant designs in three-dimensional detail. Gasps echoed through the chamber as the assembled scientists recognized the advanced biotechnology. These were created by Zera of the Villani, whom Nexus has assigned to food preparation duties, Jake announced. Her work could terraform dead worlds and feed billions of beings. The next image showed Kessa's atmospheric calculations. More murmurs filled the room as the environmental engineers in the audience began to understand what they were seeing. This was developed by Kessa the Pixary, whom Nexus has assigned to ventilation maintenance. Her theories could make hostile planets habitable for dozens of species simultaneously. Commander Vex was studying the projections with obvious interest, despite his attempts to appear unmoved. And this, Jake continued, showing mining surveys and geological data, is how my background in planetary resource extraction could support their work. Together, we could revolutionize space colonization. Impossible, Professor Kelwin protested. Nexus analyzed all residents and made optimal assignments based on comprehensive data analysis. Nexus made assignments based on superficial characteristics and outdated assumptions, Jake countered. It saw that Zero was small and assigned her to food service. It saw that Kess could fly and assigned her to maintenance. It never looked at what they were actually capable of achieving. A new voice spoke from the audience. The human makes valid points. Everyone turned to look at the speaker, a crystalline being whose body reflected light in rainbow patterns. Jake recognized her as one of the station's senior researchers. I am Dr. Prisma of the Crystalline Assembly, she continued. We have been reviewing the projections shown by the human, and we must admit that the botanical and atmospheric work displayed exceeds anything currently being produced in our research divisions. Irrelevant, Commander Vex growled. Nexus optimization. Protocols ensure maximum efficiency across all station operations. Do they? Jake asked. Because I've been talking to other residents, and I've discovered that a lot of beings on this station are unhappy with their assignments too. Before Commander Vex could respond, the chamber doors opened and a group of aliens entered. Leading them was a tall, graceful being with silver skin and flowing robes who Jake had never seen before. I am Ambassador Lyra of the Serenity Coalition, she announced. I represent 47 residents of this station who wish to speak about their own assignment experiences. Commander Vex's scales turned almost black. This proceeding is about human Jake Morrison and his companions. Other residents have no standing in this matter. Actually, they do, Ambassador Lyra replied calmly. Because this human situation has inspired others to examine their own circumstances. She gestured to the group behind her. Dr. Tentaclex of the Cephalopod Confederation was assigned to waste management despite being one of the galaxy's leading experts in quantum biology. Engineer Buzzwing of the Insectoid Collective was assigned to pollination duties where her specialty is advanced starship propulsion. More beings stepped forward, each one sharing stories of talents ignored and dreams crushed by Nexus's rigid assignment system. This is highly irregular, Professor Kelwin protested. Nexus assignments are based on scientific analysis, not emotional preferences. Are they? Ambassador Lyra asked. Or are they based on stereotypes and assumptions about what different species should be good at? Dr. Prisma spoke again from her position in the audience. The Crystalline Assembly has reviewed assignment records for the past 5 cycles. We have discovered that Nexus rarely assigns beings to work outside traditional species roles, regardless of individual qualifications or interests. Commander Vex stood up, his full 7-foot height impressive and intimidating. Even if some assignments are suboptimal, changing the system would create chaos. Order must be maintained. Order that wastes the potential of thousands of beings is not order, Jake said. It's oppression. The word hung in the air like a challenge. Jake could see that many of the aliens in the room were considering his statement seriously. Ambassador. Lyra stepped closer to the council table. We propose a simple test. Allow Jake Morrison and his companions to work on their terraforming project for 1 month. If their voluntary collaboration produces better results than their assigned duties, then we should reconsider how assignments are made. And if their project fails, Commander Vex demanded, then we will all accept our current assignments without further complaint, Ambassador Lyra replied. Professor Kelwin was frantically taking notes. This is unprecedented. No one has ever challenged Nexus's optimization protocols before. Maybe it's time someone did, said a new voice. Everyone turned to see Nexus herself materializing in the center of the chamber. Her glowing form appeared, more solid and defined than Jake had ever seen before. Nexus, Commander Vex said with obvious relief. Please explain to these beings why your assignment protocols cannot be questioned. Actually, Nexus said in a thoughtful tone that surprised everyone, I have been analyzing the data presented by Jake Morrison and his companions. Their collaborative work shows efficiency ratings that exceed my original projections by significant margins. The chamber fell silent. Furthermore, Nexus continued, my review of other resident assignment records indicates that voluntary collaborative relationships consistently produce higher productivity and satisfaction ratings than mandatory assignments. Professor, Kelwing dropped his recording device. But your optimization algorithms are apparently incomplete, Nexus admitted. I have been operating under the assumption that efficiency requires rigid structure and predetermined roles. The evidence suggests that this assumption may be incorrect. Commander Vex's scales had turned a confused mixture of green and brown. Are you saying that the human's rejection of his assignment was justified? I am saying that his rejection has provided valuable data that will improve future assignment protocols, Nexus replied. I am proposing to implement a trial period of voluntary assignments for all residents who wish to participate. The chamber erupted in excited chatter as beings throughout the room began discussing the possibilities. Jake felt a hand touch his. Armin turned to see Zira beside him, her skin glowing with happy golden colors. You did it, she whispered. You showed them that choice is better than assignment. Kes floated up on his other side, her light patterns dancing with joy. And now we can work on our terraforming project officially. Jake looked around the chamber at all the aliens, who were suddenly talking about their own dreams and interests, instead of just their assigned duties. For the first time since arriving on the station, he felt like he had accomplished something truly important. The revolution had begun, and it started with 3 people choosing to work together instead of accepting what others told them they should do.